we spend so much time in this digital world. You can look like the most popular person in the world engaging on social, but actually the most loneliest. And I think brand experiences give people a place to come together.
For brands to really convince, consumers to come and really engage with you, you need to let the audience in. And to let the audience in is not just to make them shop. It's actually to offer something that's going to make them want to actually leave their home.
People want stuff where they can get hands-on and a bit more physical than just holding their phone all the time. How are we going to involve the consumer in the brand experience and not just create something passive that looks great on camera, but it's not going to create this locked memory with them?
We always make sure that actually when there is something with influencers, not all customers, but some customers, our brand lovers, are part of it because they are brand lovers and they are as important as any influencers or celebrity in a different way, but they are the true lovers.
So you've got your brand and you've got your products, and people usually buy brand, not product.
First of all, our first panel, our first conversation, the experience-driven economy, how experience-led strategies are reshaping consumer connection. So for this, please, can I welcome the amazing Pascale Montaner, who's the Vice President of Global Marketing at Geiger, and Louisa O'Connor, who's the MD at Scene Presents, and one of our sponsors as well. Awesome. Welcome, guys. So the best marketing today doesn't always look like marketing. It looks like culture. And today we're talking about brands turning spaces, activations, even store teams into drivers of emotion, belonging, and advocacy. So this isn't really about touch points, is it, anymore? It's about feeling. So from your perspective, first of all, give us a little bit of an introduction to who you are and what you do. Obviously, when you said names there, how do you see this?
Well, everyone knows what Kurt Geiger is, but probably no one knows what Scene Presents. Who is Scene Presents? Scene Presents, we're a brand experience agency. So we do brand experience events for lots of different brands, from Adidas through to Netflix through to TikTok. I founded the company about 3 years ago. I'm very passionate about brand experience. I wish more brands did brand experience. Very happy to be sat next to someone who champions that as well through their brand. So yeah, nice to be here, everyone.
So I work for Kurt Geiger. I've been at Kurt Geiger for quite some time, over 10 years. Why I haven't been there for such a long time, that brand that you probably all know has changed drastically. When I joined, it was a single category footwear brand known in the domestic market. Today we are a global power player in the fashion accessory industry, where we actually have multiple categories driving the business success. And we really have transformed the business through launching handbags. So actually we are more successful today globally through handbags than we are in footwear. And it's very, very fast, very entrepreneurial, and give us the chance in marketing to actually be able to test and question everything we do and do it differently. And that's why I'm excited to be here today, because we are in a position where we considering and spending more and more investment towards experiential marketing and the physical world.
Amazing. And it's just all about that remarkable experience that we're sort of touching there. Like, you guys do it so well. Why do you think that brand experience is so central in 2025? Are people more emotionally receptive today? Is this kind of a post-COVID reaction? Why is it so special today? And do you think it's going to continue to be so important over the next few years?
I think there's a factor of loneliness in the new generations. Apparently 80% of Gen Z recognise that they're lonely, and I don't know whether that's come out of COVID or they've just always been lonely and now talk about it a little bit more because it's a bit more acceptable. And I think because that generation and even generations to come, and even my mum now spends more time on her phone. She, if you get shouted at for scrolling, my mum's the biggest doom scroller. I think because we spend so much time in this digital world, you can look like the most popular person in the world engaging on social, but actually the most loneliest. And I think brand experiences give people a place to come together that they know if they go in there, there's like-minded people there. And it's a place where, hopefully if brands do it well, it's a space that they can see themselves in. It's a space that kind of resonates with their values, what they like, what they're interested in, and they'll make the effort to go. And I think that's why brands, if they invest in brand experiences, will see that risk reward, because that's what people are craving.
Yeah, I agree. I think because we're in this hyper digital world, it makes one people to have deeper connections and get emotions in real life. Also for them to fuel their addiction to digital, they actually need to have real life experiences. And I think that's also why they're craving it, because there's maybe a bit of a fatigue of being in the digital world and being on our phone all the time. Also for brands to really convince, consumers to come and really engage with you, you need to let the audience in. And to let the audience in is not just to make them shop, it's actually to offer something that's going to make them want to actually leave their home. And that's why I think as a brand, I don't think we compete anymore with companies and brands. I think we compete with people's attention and time. And I think once we understand that, we know that we actually have to deliver more. And that's why we need to do it this way.
Do you think it's just become a lot more democratized? Because if you think, it used to be the brand opening of the fancy brands, like the celebrities and the football players and the influencers, they would all turn up to it. It was just very out of reach for us normal people. But every year that has just become lower and lower and lower, closer. You've got the classic thing last year of Refi bringing their real customers on what would have been an influencers tour, and actually now with pop-ups and all these experiences that are popping up for real customers, they can live that life. Is there an element of that you're able to cross the boundaries between celeb and customers? I'd love to know how you guys have done it.
Yeah, it's something that we also are moving more and more into. When I think couple of years ago, yes, we will actually do exclusive events. And those exclusive events, those pre-launches, will only be for celebrities and macro influencers. It was very exclusive, very fashion industry strategy, right? Like in the old days. But we are moving away from that completely. We actually now are investing much more in customer events. Actually, with our social media team, we discuss more and more that when we actually do any activation, customers should be invited, and we invite them. So we always make sure that actually when there is something with influencers, customers, not all customers, but some customers, our brand lovers, are part of it, because they are brand lovers and they are as important as any influencers or celebrity in a different way, but they are the true lovers. They're the one who shop. And actually, when you reflect back on how we were doing it in the past, it was probably wrong. It was, not very democratic, as you said. So I think it's good that actually we're actually opening the world of our brand to everyone. I think that's really good, and I feel really good about that. I think also the influence of TikTok and the realness, that also give probably more confidence to brands to actually go and not to be too staged or too precious, or like, it can only be that group of people, it needs to be industry only. I think if there's something really positive about TikTok, I think it basically makes us feel more comfortable with it's okay to actually be together. And that's what we want. Again, it's emotion connection that matter.
I think it's a trust thing as well. Like, we're surrounded, you touched on AI. We're surrounded by CGI, AI, and what you look at online. I think live brand experiences are the one place that people know that what they're seeing is real and what they're hearing is real. And I think that's also the same with customers are your authentic influencers, essentially. Like, if you see an influencer online that's posting about something, do they really like it, or have they just been paid to say that they like it? And I think over time, this fatigue of seeing these influencers living this unattainable life that they're being paid to live is actually rubbing people up the wrong way. And I think actually they respect brands that reward their loyalty. If they've been buying Kurt Geiger for 10, 15 years and they never get any kind of reward, and this influencer's splashing all over their TikTok with their free pair of Kurt Geigers, that's when you start not building this brand advocacy. It's actually going to send people the other way. So I think these authentic ambassadors, you know, you mentioned Refi, they do it really well, is that they're trying to reward their consumers in a really authentic way and build that trust aspect. And I think that's massively important. And also, like, Gen Z want to go to stuff. Like 82% of Gen Z go to a pop-up experience once a month.
Wow.
Like they want to attend events. Like there's this mixed messaging in the media of like, oh, people don't want to go out, they want to stay at home. Like you're going to find it really hard to get them to events. Like it's not true. They want to go, but they are picky. You have to make sure that your brand experiences are authentic to them and their values, but more importantly, authentic to your brand and what your brand stands for, and not just do things just because the trend is out there if it doesn't make sense to you and your brand.
Yeah. I mean, Louisa, you guys do multi sort of sensory experiences, you know, from sort of like scent to sound and space to scale. I'm kind of really intrigued to know, like, where's the starting point to all of that and to create an experience that people want to be part of, but also capture it and share it?
I think we always start with who's attending. Like, who are you trying to attract at your brand experience? Because there's lots of things you can do, like you said, brand, you know, scent, smell, immersive, but that might not be that relevant to the audience that you're trying to attract. The first thing we start with is, what is the product that we're trying to advertise / sell / build loyalty for, and who are the people we're trying to attract? And then we build something around that, because that means that, like I said at the start, they're going to see a reflection of themselves in that experience. They're going to see a reflection of the brand. And then the other thing is that you need to have this kind of value exchange, this reward. There's lots of stuff out in the world. You need to create spaces that are going to reward the people coming for, like, schlepping out on the Elizabeth line or whatever. Like, what are they going to get when they get there? Doesn't necessarily mean free stuff, although people do love free stuff, I'm not going to lie. But it might be, you know, something that they can really engage with. Like, we're a digital world. Like, create spaces that they can get a bit more tactile. You've seen, like, Blank Street, they did their crochet club. Pinterest do it really well, where you can go and, like, you get tattoos, or you can take a denim jacket and you put patches on it. Like, people want stuff where they can, like, get hands-on and a bit more physical than just holding their phone all the time. And I think we often start there with, like, how are we going to involve the consumer in the brand experience, and not just create something passive that looks great on camera, but it's not going to create this, like, locked memory with them.
That's super interesting. And Pascale, you've turned Kurt Geiger's physical spaces into something bigger than just storefront. So what are the lessons that you've learned from this kind of, like, storytelling with the physical spaces that the brands in this room today can learn from to kind of elevate their own brand experiences?
We have launched a new concept for our retail spaces a couple of years ago, and we really went into the immersive route. Because we thought it was part of our business expansion globally. It was a really good vehicle for that, where we could really actually celebrate the brand as, you know, the brand that we are. And our brand is about kindness, creativity, and London, our home. And we're all about color and boldness and statement. And we really made sure that actually this is really part of the experience. So when you enter a Kurt Geiger store, you actually have a floor-to-ceiling floral print that everyone is wow when they actually arrive in the space. There are colored stained glass panels, again, you know, for them to actually get more immersed within our brand. But also we didn't forget, like, little fun touches, which actually were not designed for it initially. It was designed for a campaign. It's a giant iconic bag, our Kensington bag. So we actually have once, what happened is one of our team was actually in the tube to create some content somewhere in London, and she was carrying this giant bag that we designed for a big campaign with Joa Boa. And she was stopped in the tube and in the street non-stop. Everyone was taking pictures. And from there, we thought, okay, we should probably bring it to our store. And now in all our new flagship, you actually have that giant bag, and customers love it. They take pictures of themselves with it. They have even asked if they could buy it. And the bag is as big as that table. But and they actually understand it's the best way for us to let them know, especially when you're actually, really expanding globally. You don't have many opportunities to really explain, what your brand stands for. So you really need to use your retail space for that, in the most immersive way as possible. So we try to make sure that there is something playful with the giant Kensington bag. There is boldness, there is color, and there is kindness as well. And by kindness, it's because we launched a foundation to help young people enter the creative industry, and we have a foundation and an academic learning program. So this is also part of the experience. So it's a way of trying to go full circle and try to tell them, this is who we are. We are inviting you in our world, and from the feedback we have, they get it. They really love it. I mean, we have customers actually in some markets driving 3 hours to come to our store when we tell them that our store is opening.
Yeah.
And so just to get it, you've got this massive floral print. Is this in all your stores? Is this just your London ones? The bag sounds pretty unique, but
yeah. No, so the one on Oxford Street is the new one in London.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in the domestic market, we have many stores, and we haven't and cannot revamp all the stores. But in any new market, all the new stores are actually this concept. So it's this new immersive concept. So all over the US, for instance, you will actually just see that concept. And this is the concept we're actually going for everywhere. We also have pop-up activation, which also come from that concept. So when we actually do pop-ups, we try to make sure again that it really celebrates the brand and those values. So the floral print, the colorful backdrop, the giant bag, the stainless glass, all those elements, the music playlist, all that is actually part of those pop-up stores wherever we go in the world.
I'm conscious that we may be in an echo chamber, always conscious trying not to be in an echo chamber, but London, New York, LA, those are the places where we talk about pop-ups, we talk about activations, and that's great for everyone here who's in London or able to get to London, but the vast majority of your customers aren't there. Like, how are you able to sort of bridge that gap? Because obviously brands, particularly smaller brands, they can't afford to be doing pop-ups in, wherever I was going to name a town there, and someone's going to be like, that's my town. So I'll pull back from that. They're not going to come back from Stroud. There you go. They're going to do a pop-up in Stroud because it's too small. There's no market there. You may have a store there, but it doesn't feel like the whole activation because you just don't have the budget to do that. So how do you bridge that kind of inclusivity with also the coolness and the practicalities of budget as well?
I mean, you have different tiers. You have you basically activate pop-ups for different objectives. So you could actually create a pop-up in a high traffic location in a market where you're not there as the first touch point in the physical world. So that could be one way. It could actually be in markets where you are already existing, but through wholesale, so like in department stores. And in that case, you don't go just for New York or LA. You actually go for Philadelphia and Orlando and all over the US with your wholesale partner, the department stores. That's a way to do it. We do actually quite a lot of that in all key markets through North America to Europe and Middle East actually. So some are much smaller scale and some are bigger scales. And it's not always very pricey. Like for instance, in department stores need brands to create, that magic. So they actually give you spaces, or sometimes they have, I would say, like a white box, and they want you to customize it. So this is something that we're actually working with on a project for Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Den Haag, the 4 cities over there. So there are different possibilities. Not everything is massively expensive. The other thing is you could really be flexible with how you actually design and construct your pop-ups. So then you could actually reutilize them, scale them. So then it's actually mobile in terms of spaces. So you need to maximize,
Yes. So this is where social comes into play. We work with a brand who, usually you'll be under pressure. Your pop-ups need to go where your biggest footfall is. So it usually is London, if we're talking about the UK. But a lot of your customers, even though that's going to give you the greater ROI, some of your customers won't be there. So what we've done before is use social to engage customers and reward them to bring them to the event. So if you've got like super fans or super loyal brand base somewhere else in the country, what we've done before is like set up a competition online on social, show us your product, show us your brand loyalty, answer some questions, you get entered into a draw and we'll bring you to the event. And I think that hype bit works quite well as well, because then they'll talk about it, be like, oh my God, I've been invited. And then they'll like come down and then they'll take photographs. So I think that's where, I don't want to talk about like brand experience replacing social content and digital. I think they can live really well side by side, and that's where you can use social to really give a brand experience that legacy and also give it greater reach.
It's so much more interesting to post about than yet another. Here's our product.
Absolutely.
Just your grid. You're like, here's an event. Here's these people. This is here. Like, it's just actually an engagement piece with that channel.
Mm-hmm.
What does it, Louisa, from your perspective, what does it actually take though to bring sort of like you said, a lot of brands are living mostly online, but to bring that digital identity into the real world and make it resonate? What does it take to do that?
Well, I should know how to do that, because our whole proposition is making the intangible tangible. So I'm hoping I can answer that. We work with a lot of digital brands. So I think the first bit is to understand like the personality of your brand. And the thing is, you've got two things, right? Because you've got your brand and you've got your products. And people usually buy brand, not product. The reason, they can get a shoe, a handbag, a makeup, or whatever. Anyway, it's the same thing, but they buy it because they love your brand. And what is it about your brand that they particularly love? And then you have to bring those values into a physical space. So is it that you're known for sustainability? Is it that you're known for female empowerment? Is it that you're known for body positivity? Whatever it is, we will look at all those pillars and then think about how bringing those into a physical space. The next bit is that they're used to engaging with your brand, like this.
Yeah.
But what they're feeling something when they're engaging with your brand. So the next thing is we think about is the emotion. What is it that they are feeling when they're engaging with your brand? And how do we build activations that will tap into that emotion? And we want it to be really different to how they engage on your phone. We want it to be tactile. There is absolutely no point in just taking what's on their phone and putting a load of screens in a room and putting what's on your phone on a screen, because they might as well have stayed at home and looked at their phone. So we have to create really tactile participatory activations where we take, where they can really get hands-on with the product, they can play. There's also an education piece that we usually tap into as well, is that what can they find out from you in a physical space that they cannot find out through their phone, and really bring that education and personal kind of engagement into a space. I would say they're the kind of main things that we look at.
What do you think, this is to both of you, what do you think is the one thing that brands overlook when it comes to creating these kind of experiences?
For me, I think it's a bit of an overlook, but also just as an impossible task, is don't try and create an event to please everyone, because you won't. You're just going to fail. Someone will not like something and will think that it's not speaking to them and their values. So I think you've got to really try and hone in on who your target audience is and focus on that. And then cast the net a little bit wider to think about inclusivity. We deal with a lot of, when you're creating brand experiences, there's a lot going on. And sometimes people don't want that. They need to get away from it a little bit. So make sure you've got quieter spaces, more engaging spaces, all of that side. But I think number one for me is that writing a brief to try and hit every single objective under the sun is not going to do that. So pick your top 5 and make it hit that, is what I would suggest. And then you'll feel much nicer at the end of the day and less of a failure.
I think the other thing is, because we all know that we need to be much more active in that space. I think sometimes brands make the mistake to just do something because they've seen it, by another brand and they think that's going to work for them, but it's not distinctive enough. It's not really right for their brand. And I think this is where the most time needs to be spent, is like, what is right for you? What is right for your audience? And it's not easy, because actually a lot has been done already, and you need to find, the right formula for you.
We need a new version of a corner shop.
Yes.
I see one more brand do a corner shop. I'm like, the thing is, it's really hard because they work and people love them. People love going on that checkered floor and, picking up a lemon that's branded. Like, I get it, it's great, and it looks really good on your social media, but it's right in that don't just necessarily jump on a trend just because it's trending. Create your own trend, because that first one, that hype of that, when like Burberry did Norman's, or the first time they did Morley's, or the first time they did Bagel Bake, like that's the hype you want. And it, like you said, it doesn't necessarily have to be shiny and cost a lot of money. The bagel when Heisenberg did it, it was just like a sign at the top, and they just served bagels. Like it wasn't massive production value, but it was culturally relevant. It was so relevant to that area, and it was so relevant to the people they invited who lived in that area, that they wanted to post about it because it was like new and different. And that's the challenge for us as agencies, and the challenge for brands is to find the next hype. Answers on a postcard, what is it?
You may decide to touch on it there, but if you had zero budget, and I'm sure many brands in this room would want to know this.
Yeah.
If you had zero budget, no build, just people in a place, what's the one thing you'd keep to still create that experience that generates that word of mouth?
Everyone has zero budget. It's a pandemic. It's like literally, it's a thing. Don't feel alone. No one's got any money, just so you know. I think it's that hyperlocal culture piece. If I had no money, like no creative, I would literally go on a high street and pick like the thing that the locals talk about. Everyone's got their favourite cafe. If you think of Pelly Cafe around here, everyone's got their favourite pub, like the library that's been there for like 400 years, like the old park or whatever. Pick something that is like iconic to that area and partner with them and do something around them, because I think that's what's going to get the talkability. And generally that doesn't have to cost a lot of money, especially if you're the first to do it.
And how do you manage it? Because we had a similar question asked that same thing around sort of small brands. I think you answered that really well. But how do you actually measure that? The CFO is always going to be looming, right? You say there's no budget, so they're going to say, well, actually, did this work? So actually, how do you translate that into, other than you've said there's, pick your things you want to succeed at. From a marketing perspective, I'm sure we can do that. We can tick those off. But then how do you make sure that you can then feed that back to the business and that showed that this was a successful financial investment?
Well, I've probably got a harder job. At least you're on the inside. I think you've got to play the long game. You've got to try and educate them that they have to play the long game. If you think about the brands that you all talk about, they don't just do one event and then never do one again. They build that legacy piece. And the reason why they're doing it is because if you're in people's narrative, you become culturally relevant. And there's an amazing stat out there. We did an event and I had it massive on the screen. Write it down. If you are seen to be culturally more relevant as a brand and you are being talked about by people, you're going to make 2.5 times more profit. It's been proven across many brands, Moncler, Burberry, Chanel, Red Bull. They are constantly doing brand experiences and being out and being talked about and being seen as culturally relevant. And because of that, they make more money. But you have to see it over a long period of time. You can't just do one event and then expect your sales to go up. It's just not going to happen. My other thing is invite finance and procurement down. Get them to your events and be like, look at all the smiling faces and people loving your brand. They don't get it. They're sitting in their little boxes looking at a spreadsheet and numbers. Like, get them to the event, give them an ice cream and a free tote bag, and then they'll sign it off.
Is that what you do, Pascale?
Sometimes for some events, yes, we definitely do that. But yeah, it's true, because actually, then the CFO gets extremely excited, because also they don't go to that many events as well. So yeah, that's a good one. But I think while the event is happening is the sentiment. You can feel it if it's been successful or not. So that's the first thing. You're going to say, oh yeah, but you can't measure that. But yes, you can. We've got eyes. We can observe, and also we could get feedback from the people, from our team working there. They will tell you if it was successful or if it wasn't. So that's the first thing, is like, don't ignore observing what's happening during your event or your activation. Don't ignore what the feedback is from your team. I think that's the first thing. Then, of course, you can measure it on social media because you can actually see whether it actually was shared on social media. So that's another way. You can also, eventually see if there's any, impact on sales. It's not always relevant because you don't do it for sales. It's not the objective. The objective is to really create loyalty and retention. I think that's the most important thing. Is like you want to trigger a connection, and they may not buy today, but they may actually buy, or it's just word of mouth. They may actually speak to their friends, and eventually that will convert. And if not, it's okay. They at least they got to know you. So that's true. It's not a given when you actually enter new markets.
A few more questions here on Mum's iPad. What's one detail most brands overlook when trying to design an experience that sparks social sharing and real emotional connection in the moment?
That's a great question. I think probably the one, I don't know if it's one detail, but you do have to think about all the senses. Don't just think about sight. Think about what they're going to smell when they walk in, what they're going to eat, what they're going to hear. So I think, if you're trying to bring people out of your digital world into a real world, think about what the real world is made up of and make sure that it feels like quite 360. And I also think, sorry, I know I'm only allowed one, another one. Don't forget to include them. Don't forget to include them and make them feel part of the experience. So whether that's collaborating beforehand, potentially if you're working with influencers, maybe they curate the menu, maybe they curate the playlist, but also consumers that are attending, make sure there's something for them to do to collaborate with and work with your brand versus it just feeling quite passive.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's let the audience in. I think it's very, very important.
We also managed to answer one of the questions, which is how do you tickle all 10 groups of human senses? So thank you for that.
There's 10?
Yeah, I did. I maybe they have more.
I'm going
to
have
about this. I was Kate Nightingale, so she's a pro at this. She'll tell us another time on that. But I did want to ask you about what are the risks, though, of in real life experience. Like, what happens when consumers have a bad experience with a pop-up, like long queues, being underwhelmed? You talked about inclusivity. You can't have it for everybody, but what happens when it goes south, and how do you mitigate that?
Well, it's funny because the queues thing. Some brands want queues. Which is always interesting. A queue is like, as an agency, is very stressful, seeing a queue. But actually, some brands want queues. I think if it does go south, apologise, be a human about it. I think if you've got queues that people aren't happy in, engage people in the queue. Fenty did a pop-up in China and people were queuing for 5 hours, but they engaged the queue. They worked with local communities. There was a coffee shop opposite, there was a pub, there was all sorts of stuff. They brought that in. They were giving people free drinks and food. So if you think you're going to put up a pop-up that's got hype around it and people are going to be waiting, maybe think about how you make the experience from in the queue into the space, and then they won't complain because they'll feel about it's a long, the whole thing is an experience, and how can you engage in that? But I think if you do all that and you end up with a Willy Wonka experience, apologise. Apologise,
no one will ever forget
I'll be better next time.
Amazing.
Any other questions on the iPad?
There's one or two. I've merged a few, so if you don't feel heard, but you've heard something similar, I've merged those ones in there, which I think, I've even got some more ones as well, which is, how do you feel AI will and we've only got 30 seconds, how do you feel AI will either change or improve experience-led strategy and human connection? Have you used it for anything specific? Go.
Do you have
17 seconds now.
17 seconds remaining.
Personalisation.
I think, personalisation. I mean, there's so much to be done with AI, but we're still so much at the beginning that we don't really know how that's going to basically really impact the experience. But I think personalisation is really what at least we master the most in AI, and marketing is the personalisation. I think that's.
And accessibility. It'll help, like we used it to translate 19 languages.
Oh, wow.
So we could have something in an experience that had all the languages there and we could do it very quickly. So accessibility, personalisation. Stop.
It does. And peace. Amazing. Pascale, Louisa, thank you so much. You guys were amazing.